Hey, welcome to the newest year ever.
First episode of 2026. Actually, the first or second day of 2026.
Yeah, it's our first episode. Well, This airs on the first Tuesday, right?
Whatever.
First Tuesday of 2026.
It's new stuff. It's exciting.
We are Twin Tail Studios. This is the Twin Tail Studios podcast.
Episode 14.
Episode 14, which is going to be titled something cool related to what we want to do in 2026 or like what we're looking forward to. Like it's a new year.
Old endings.
Yeah. Old endings?
Old endings. Because we're old.
Okay.
And we ended the year.
Okay.
Getting old
This is
now.
the beginning of the year, though. This is the beginning of the year. We're not talking about.
Yeah, but we didn't record on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we did. We recorded
before Christmas.
We recorded. That was our last episode. This is our first episode of the new year. So we're eyes to the future. We're looking to 2026. What we have planned, what we want to do. We'll talk about a few topics because there have been some questions about Lorengard. People want to talk about Lorengard. We'll talk about that a little bit in the later part of the. I mean, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, we should have they were like, we should have like a whole."
You're supposed to do that a little farther away from yourself because you.
No, I did. I was leaning back.
Pop.
That last time I was literally swallowing the mic. So I've had audio problems.
We're still learning this
trying to figure
technical
out
stuff.
this.
Live streaming. It's not great.
We're still on video.
We're cobbling
too.
stuff together. And last time the camera was crooked. I'm not sure if the camera's crooked again, like slanted. It looks like it's slanted, but
It's very funny because we tried using like the whole professional OBS studio, the streaming software people use, and we were having so many technical difficulties, and now we're just like, well, I'll just put my iPhone on a stand over there and we'll just point it at us, and it's been working much better.
Well, the iPhone has such a good camera on it anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to compete.
So
this is the first episode of 2026, so we can start off by saying what we have planned for this year, which I think most people already know because we've been advertising it for months now. Our first big thing is going to be our Game Found campaign for the Mouse Light Adventures, which you see behind me here if you're watching the
hopefully next month.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That would be awesome.
We've been aiming for a kind of a February time frame.
Fortunately, we're not on any kind of time schedule. Like I said before, this is not our full-time job. We're doing this in addition. We have full-time jobs. We're excited about getting this out there, but luckily we can do it at our own pace. So if we have things we're waiting on, like not just art, we have some more artwork we're waiting on, but also things like our VAT registration for UK shipping, all these things that are out of our control.
Fun business things.
Yeah. So, we're excited to get going, but then again, we're going to make sure we're ready before we launch it. So,
yeah, and I think one of the biggest things we've been harping on is the follower count. A lot of not just Game Found, but just crowdfunding in general. It's such like a marketing endeavor. So it's mostly just about before having a set launch date, we want to make sure that first off we have our funding goal hammered down, like exactly what we need to cover the production expenses and to reimburse for all the art and everything.
And it does suck nowadays too, because like not just for how much the game costs to make, but also the way we're doing our campaign is we're not doing stretch goals. We're doing daily unlocks. So we're making sure our funding goal covers everything we want to do for the game. Also, basically compensating for any kind of unexpected tariffs, which the thing is we have no idea what to expect. It's so volatile that we kind of just have to, okay, well, let's just worst case scenario, let's make this funding level, make sure there's going to be no problem funding this game and shipping it to people. So it's stressful to figure out the exact right funding level, but we think we got it.
Yeah, and like the kind of going into that whole topic, it's we really have to both handle the nail down the funding goal, but also follower count to kind of compensate, because like you can kind of be predictive in a way where there's standard conversions, which it's not always exact science, but it's proven enough where you can kind of predict how much conversion rate to expect. So looking at that, we know we have to have a certain follower count before we hit the launch, because we want to make sure that because it's a marketing thing, you want to make sure it funds pretty quickly, because that's the whole thing. It's
if you don't fund on day one, you are severely handicapping your campaign. The hype, the momentum, all that stuff is kind of dependent upon how well your first day is.
Yeah, and we like to be transparent, obviously. So one thing that we want to avoid is you see a lot of these campaigns come out and they have a a pretty like low funding goal, and the goal is because that's not really their goal. Their goal is something much higher, but they want to have that illusion of like, oh, we funded so fast, and here's all this extra money we're working with. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure we're coming out with a funding goal that like, this is what we need to produce this game. So please help us get to this point. And
because we have not only the manufacturing costs, the book manufacturing costs, any kind of unexpected tariffs, all that stuff is calculated, as well as art and sculpts and stuff that we need to pay for as well, because we have a lot of things that we've fronted the cost of ourselves personally and put our own money into it, but there are things we need to pay for still, and hopefully get paid back for some of the stuff we've invested into it. So
I've spent the last few years kind of dumping money into just like, because I self-publish books, so I'm kind of used to this whole not like expecting exact return, because it's just something I want to do. I want to keep producing books and releasing them. This is kind of different because it is like there's bigger chunks of money and you have more people involved, because with the books it's just me. It's like it's just my own money. It's just, you know, putting out books, and if I get some money back, great, but I'm not like counting on it. But there are people counting on getting money back from what they're investing in this, you know, like not that we have external investors, but we're working with people that, you know, we want to make sure we can pay them money. I think we can show that like, hey, if we do more projects, we're going to have funds to, you know,
specifically
pay
in this
for
project. We're partnering with Tom and Chris. Tom doing the sculpts and Chris doing the graphic design, which they've already done tons of work for. So obviously we want them to get paid for their work. So yeah, we have a very realistic goal in mind, which we're going to present, and that's once we hit that. We also have, like, the way we're running the campaign is we're going to be doing daily unlocks and as opposed to stretch goals. So regardless of, once we hit the goal and we're funded, all those unlocks are just going to be free things we're adding to make the game better, what we already budgeted for. So that's kind of how we're going forward with this. And also, since this is our first big project as our own company, this whole point of doing this was to prove ourselves as publishers. And so part of that is like making sure that we do it right and we tell you exactly what we need to do it. Kind of be as transparent as possible. That's the goal. So that's what we're going for.
Yeah, that's and on the tail end of talking about the most immediate plans for 2026, this campaign, just as like updates, we, like Adam mentioned before, I think you already said we've got our character sculpts in, you know, we've got our assets going. We're just waiting for a few more pieces before launching. But also like now it's kind of just, we're hitting that whole, this is the marketing phase. So you might have seen, if you're following our YouTube channel, you might have seen our trailer. We have a new teaser trailer for the game, which looks awesome. Share that around because we need the visibility.
Hexy Studio,
so,
right?
Hexy Studio made it. Yeah, they did an incredible job. We'll definitely be working with them in the future for more trailers. But got the edits in for book 3. So
well, before you get into that, we also got a playthrough from the demo kit.
The
was
Co-op
sent
Guild.
to the Co-op Guild, and Steve did a playthrough video with
Very in-depth. Stephen Kim. Yep.
Kim. It's like 2 hours, right?
Yeah, about just a little over 2 hours.
They played through all 3 acts. Didn't quite finish the final act. Spoiler alert: they did not beat the villain.
They finished it, but just not in a good light.
It gives you a pretty comprehensive overview of the game, like how it's played. There were a few rules issues that luckily Steve edited himself, giving notes to himself in the future, saying this is future Steve fixing this issue I had. One big one was the scheme on the peril of the scheme cards. They made the game a little easier for themselves by not having enough scheme on there. But other than that, very solid playthrough. Appreciate you taking the time to play it, Steve, and I hope people check it out.
Because it should be on the GameFound page now, right? Or
not yet. I can add it anytime. But again,
it might be before
the GameFound page is a preview page right now. So
yeah,
I mean, I can add that pretty easily. But we have sent out a few more copies. But that's the first video we've gotten. Hopefully, we get some more to share and drive more people to the GameFound page.
Yeah, we'll be expecting a video from the co-op shop, One Stop Co-op Shop. We already had the unboxing overview from Paul.
You're getting closer.
But you're louder than me. Look at the spikes, man. I'm always quiet. I talk it.
I just project.
Yeah, I talk faster and softer, and I don't enunciate. Anyway, yeah, we have the unboxing video from Paul. He's going to do another a playthrough, an overview video. But also, I just sent Steve from the Co-op shop or Co-op Guild, just sent it to Colin, I think it was, at Meet Me at the Table. So that'll be another channel covering
sweet.
it. So
Sweet.
So lots of coverage coming out. Yeah, that's kind of the marketing end of things.
And honestly, we did a playthrough video, like I said, that was one of the lost episodes. We didn't actually release it because it was terrible quality.
we're not set up for that.
Watching Steve's version, like a good thing. We'll just let Steve. People like Steve do it because they can do a much better job showing off the game. The weekend.
I think we provide too much commentary. We want to talk about design stuff. We want to talk about like all these different abilities, and it's like just get to the game. So we'll let the people who are good at that do that, and we'll just keep doing what we do here.
And this is something we'll probably obviously mention throughout the campaign. But getting this demo kit was the first time we actually got to play the game physically on the table, with actual components, because we usually use Tabletop Simulator. So we've gotten a few games in, and the more we play it, the more we notice things we want to update. Nothing game design wise, but little effects to kind of tighten up how the villain functions, stuff like that. So we want to make sure people are aware that if they're watching the game, the preview, like obviously it's a demo copy, so things are subject to change. The game design, not so much, but maybe some of the villain effects might change slightly in the final game.
I think we're too in love with the game design itself. It always comes down to just content, like abilities and stuff. So that's something that we'll probably just kind of play with until we go to print. So just safe to assume that you're not seeing anything final. We're always seeing how outcomes are from other players, talking to these previewers, seeing what they think, massaging abilities and stuff like that. It's just, it's the iterative process of game design. Just doesn't stop until you hit print. And also, on that note, we should specify too, for anybody watching these playthroughs, this kind of they call it a vertical slice. I never like that term, even though I know what it means. It's like you're just kind of seeing a little bit of everything, This is kind of the most basic setup. It's just the four heroes, kind of the starter villain combination with the encounters. So things there's a lot other things that get wacky and more difficult.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, where it's not necessarily the easiest, but it's the most basic. It's usually our demo kits are the first things we design of a game. So they're the first villain, for example, the first encounters, and then it's kind of just getting your feet wet with the design. And then obviously the more we design, the more we start exploring the design space. And the nice thing is playing this game more on the table has shown us so much more design space that we didn't even think about before. So we have so many ideas of how to expand this game in the future if it's successful. So we're super excited about where this game could go. I just really hope that it can become a reality. So.
Yeah. As long as we hit this first hurdle and fund it, I think there's a bright future for this game line, because it has so much of what we wanted so many of other games to be. As much as we loved Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game, and Heroes of Terranoth, we had expansion ideas planned for that, but it was kind of always more just more content. This game, it's more content, but also more modular elements to the game, things that kind of just expand the scope of the game. There's just a lot of things we want to do with it. So hopefully we could just get this box funded, and that way we have planned, we can start planning for the future. And we'll get more into the planning in a minute, because we'll have a whole segment here, I think, afterward about what we want to plan to do this year. But I do want to mention that as far as the Malice of Light goes, book 3 I mentioned before, we got the edits in, so I'm going through right now, and I'm laying out how the books are going to look, implementing all the edits and doing some rewrites and everything. But so anybody who hasn't read the books yet, if you want, now is the time to check them out, because I just updated the books, the layouts of the books on wherever they're available now. If you order the book 1 and book 2, you'll get a new edition of it, which is kind of similar to how the pocket hardcovers will look. A different trim size, obviously, but they look awesome. I put in some of the cool artwork from the game, and just kind of made it look a little more deluxe. So
did you set it up so any sales will go to the company now instead of yourself?
I can, yeah. Well, I am the company, so it's just reimbursing me for all the expenses I'm investing for.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the benefits of setting up our own business is we can actually get paid through the company and not take personal tax hits.
It does have the logo though now, so if you buy the book, it's actually it's got the publisher logo, so now it's a Twin Tail Studios book, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think any kind of this is a side note, but any kind of freelance work we do in the future where we're doing design work for other companies, we'll do as Twin Tail Studios. So that'd be kind of our organization where we work through, which is, it's nice to have, Yeah.
And a lot of designers do that, where if they design, for another publisher, they design as a collective. So that kind of leads into like what do we want to do in 2026? Like, I mean, we'll assume the best case scenario where it's like we fund flawlessly and we get to make the Mouselight Adventures early on this year. Like, what else do we want to do this year? And I'll preface that by saying, you mentioned designing for other publishers. We can't talk about it openly, but we are working on a couple projects for other publishers. So that's something that, like, unfortunately, we can't like even talk tangentially about because it's not really up for us to divulge. But we are doing some exciting projects with some really exciting publishers.
It might not even be announced until 2027.
Yeah, it might not even be a thing until later, but it's
we'll
taking up some of our time, obviously.
And again, right now it's kind of early stuff, so we haven't even signed anything for you. It's just we're in talks with doing it, so it's not official yet, but we definitely want to do it and are excited about the prospect of doing it. What
do you want to do though? Like what would I mean?
Well,
we've already talked about Hour of Need, obviously.
Yeah, we bought Hour of Need, and we have Hour of Need in Brook City. Hour of Need would be nice to get out there somehow. I don't like. We have options where we could maybe try to if Mouselight Adventures funds extremely well and we have extra money that the company can work with, maybe we could just do a print run of Hour of Need and just reprint it and get it into retail. So people can buy it, because I don't personally want to take up a crowdfunding project for the year on a reprint.
I think it's safe to say we could probably only do a max of 2 campaigns this year. Like we can do Mouselight Adventures and maybe one other one in the fall.
Yeah, because we're not going to do another campaign until Mouselight Adventures fulfills.
Yeah. We can plan for one, but we can't actually launch one until everyone has their games.
We don't want to like that. I mean, people can do whatever they want, but we personally don't want to do that. We want to make, especially with our first game, we want to make sure that they understand how we work and how our games are produced and delivered and all that stuff. Got to prove ourselves. So we're under no delusions about doing campaigns while we're waiting for things to fulfill. But that being said, we're also very excited to do new stuff. So Hour of Need we wanted because it was a great deal, and we value the game design and the IP and all that stuff. So we want it, but we're still exploring what exactly we want to do with it, and what people want out of it. But yeah, in my opinion, I would rather just find a way to fund a reprint and not do a crowdfunding campaign for it. But.
And I'd be curious to see other people's opinions on this, because our outlook on this is Hour of Need is an existing game line that we hope to get back out there as is. Like we want to expand it, we want to put it out there, make it available. We also have Brook City, which we acquired with it. Brook City would be a revamp. It would be like a sequel, a new edition, whatever you want to call it. We'll decide on the wording of that, like the marketing spin of that, but it would be a new edition of the game. It'd be a new design, take that theme, elevate it a bit, do what we wanted to do with it originally, and just make a new system. So we wouldn't. So it's to us, I feel like getting Hour of Need is more pressing than Brook City because it's not changing. Brook City is not as pressing to get out there because we're going to be revamping it. So I think that's safe to say Brook City is going to be something of a 2027 concern, at the earliest.
We definitely think about, we always have ideas about what we do with Brook City, but it's not something we're actively working on just yet.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how well Mouselight Adventure does, because if it does crazy well and we can just start focusing on more projects, then we can maybe even freelance that out, hire a designer to take it on and say, hey, do this game we want to design, because we don't have time to do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's something I would like to collaborate on somebody, because we have ideas for Brook City, but we do want to have somebody who's going to take more ownership of it, because one of the goals, which is not really a spoiler, like we kind of hinted at this, but I think
you keep doing this, you keep pulling it closer to yourself.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you listen back though, I'm always quiet.
You're peeking out.
All right, well, I apologize if my audio is going wacky because I'm trying to figure out a good balance. But anyway, we've hinted at it before, but Brook City, the goal is to bring that into the Relic Myers universe in a way, because we wrote a book over there, Ransom Creek Remains, which is a no-brainer putting that into the Brook City universe like that to make those cohesive, because it'd be cool to have a new Brook City design and then like a standalone expansion in the same vein as our Hour of Need standalone expansions, where it's like a 2-player Ransom Creek Remains box in that system. And it's not much of a spoiler to say that the next Ransom Creek book would be Avery and Rain being in Brook City for one reason or another. So it would make thematic sense to just bring that into the universe, kind of give it a home, because my goal, which I think is our shared goal, we're still talking about it, is
my goal
for this fall. is, assuming things go well this fall around Halloween time, will be our Relic Myers big campaign, which would be book 3, the video game we're planning, assuming it all goes well, and then the board game system, which, you know, we'll talk about more as it develops, because we're not diving into that yet because we have things on our plate. But that would be my goal, is for the late 2026 campaign would be the Relic Myers system that I've been waiting to do for a long time. But also I'd have to write book 3 as well. So
yeah, I mean, also one thing we didn't talk about was like how we spent our holidays or whatever, like just things we've been up to. I'm not sure if you want to discuss that, but it kind of plays into what I am thinking for the future for like a game I want to work on. Over the holidays, I played a lot of Diablo 4, you know, just exploring the Paladin in the new season and things like that. Painting my dwarves for, I have a dwarf team that I've had since Blood Bowl launched back in 2016. I bought a dwarf team and I painted a couple of them, but they've just been sitting on my shelf unpainted. And so I have all these, what are you doing? I have all these Blood Bowl teams that are unpainted. And I've been, you know, every now and then play Blitz Bowl with somebody, and like, you know, they'll use a team. It's like, I'd rather kind of want to have these teams painted. So I just decided to paint my dwarf team. Really rediscovering my joy of painting, because I got burnt out. We were playing Kill Team and I was painting terrain, and I don't like painting terrain. I love terrain, but painting it is so boring to me. I don't like it. It takes too long. And it really saps my desire to paint. So it's been nice to kind of rediscover the joy of painting. So I've been doing that. But the gaming fun that I had over the holidays at the table, besides playing the Mouse Light Adventures demo game, my daughter had a sleepover for one of her friends over like a few nights ago, and they were bored in the morning and they were just looking for something to do, and I said, let's play a board game. So I busted out Talisman, the 5th edition of Talisman, which I haven't played since I bought the co-op expansion at Gen Con 2 years ago.
2 Gen Cons ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Look how quiet I am when I said that.
You're about this, dude. You're so worried about the size of the lines.
I listen to our podcast and I know how bad I sound.
It's because you're always talking like the whole, like, you just talk normal and you'll be picked up.
I don't know how to use my throat though.
You're always anyway. I busted out Talisman, and her friend had no experience playing like board games aside from Monopoly or whatever. And that one I thought was close enough to Monopoly. It's like, oh, you roll dice to move and all that stuff. And she's like, oh, it's my first nerdy game. And I was like, yeah, it's actually a pretty good introduction. And I realized as I was playing it, like I had a lot of fun playing this game. I've always, you know, enjoyed Talisman, the randomness of it and stuff. But there is this joy that I find with simple games that I'm always reminded of. Like, that's why I love Hero Quest and things like that. Like, there's this charm and like joy about a game where you don't need to read the rules a bunch to like remember how to play.
I like rule books. You
just bust out a game and just, you know, random stuff can happen. You're not that invested. You don't have to think too hard. Your just turns are quick. And it really like made me inspired to design a game, because it was kind of funny when we designed Mouse Light Adventures. We approached it thinking that we want to make a game that's very approachable. Anybody, you know, mainstream audiences could approach it. And as I was watching Steve's playthrough, I'm like, I thought this game was like really simple, but as I'm watching, I'm like, it's actually kind of complex. You know, it's like
it's on par with most of our other designs.
Yeah, but like it seems like even in my opinion, it's like one of the simplest games we've designed. I think. Yeah. Well, not the simplest, because that's probably like fantasy.
I think there's a difference between elegance and simplicity, because simplicity is like Talisman, where it's not always elegant. You know, it's simple, but it doesn't mean elegant. So they don't equate the same thing. But I think it's just. It's subtle differences.
I will say that the Talisman co-op expansion is pretty elegant. Like that was.
I thought it was
a nice way to turn Talisman into a cooperative experience.
Which is what I liked about it, because that's how we approach design. Where if you add a new element to a game, it's like you're socketing just a modular thing in, as opposed to having a list of exceptions.
There are some things about the Talisman expansion that I don't like, where you have to replace some of the adventure cards because they don't make sense, because they're you know, it's cooperative. But it's a minor little nuisance. But anyway, it kind of like made me think about wanting to do another, like, even more simpler game. Like taking a game like Talisman, like an adventure style game, but adding a little bit more decisions into it, but keeping the mechanics as that simple. There's an appeal to that for me. Like there's something that I really can't explain about my I don't know what appeals to me like with these simple games.
With a sitcom theme, right? Like a.
It could be the finally get to that sitcom game that Brady wants to do.
I think Twin Tails is eventually going to do the sitcom game, but I don't know if it's going to be like a serious IP or not. But
I would like to do like an adventure game, basically something inspired by Talisman, but a built-in cooperative game like Runebound, like stuff like that.
Which I think Relic Myers would be a great IP for that.
Yeah, but something where you start with nothing. Have a character with special ability or something like that, and you go around and you gather things. And it's really simple system with like dice resolution or whatever.
Yeah, the first like pitch I had for the Relic Myers game was just like a streamlined, more elegant Arkham Horror that's a little more similar to games like Defenders of the Realm, where you have like maybe like some miniature gremlins around town. So you pick like different types of minions, different villain. So it's got that like Sadler Brothers touch, but it's more like just like an adventure game where you're just going around town finding clues, getting gear. Because that's what
I think that's what would be the twist or the selling point, is to have something where you're gathering clues, like the quest you're on or whatever is where the mechanics come in. It's not really the player side of things. It's more just about how the game evolves of what you're doing. Like you're trying to collect these pieces of evidence to solve some mystery to win the game or whatever. That would be interesting.
Yeah, because doing that in a simplified way for like Relic Myers, you can either just take that system and complicate it and make the Brook City system, because it's all about investigating and going around town and stuff. So like you would just have a kind of a roadmap, I think, for a more elevated, complex system that Brook City would probably be more
It's interesting because when we work on games, we get really caught up in the mechanics, like trying to refine these mechanics about what's an interesting way to do this thing that we're used to doing in a game, like so our dice system. It's like how can you use dice that don't fail, just things like that. But when I choose what game I'm playing, like I'm way more interested in the experience that I'm creating, like the theme that I'm in, the feeling I get playing it. I don't even think about the mechanics. Like I don't even care about the mechanics about the games I play. It's weird.
There's subtlety. Like to me, it's also setup, but that's usually reflective of the mechanics, because
it's a product. It's a product.
More complicated setups are usually indicative of like a more complicated system that requires very specific things to be in specific areas to make this like complex machine work. But the more simple a game is, usually the less complex the setup is, because it's based on randomization, or it's based on just luck of the roll, stuff like that. So
I think that's one. When I say simple games, that really is a big factor. Like with Talisman, for example, is I pull out this box. It's all one box. You open it up, you pull the board out, get your character cards, put the adventure deck out. You're basically ready to go. Like you don't have to do any kind of special setup. You don't have to study a scenario like that. You just set it up and you're playing within 5 minutes or whatever. And it all goes back into the box. Like you one box, then goes on my shelf. They don't have to worry about multiple boxes and all this stuff until you start playing with expansions, obviously.
I think that's the Relic Myers game. So go for it.
That's something that we definitely want to do. Like something I want to do. I want to do a simpler game, but still robust. Like it's a simple. The rules are simple to learn, but there's a lot to do in the game, a lot to experience. That's my goal for one of the next games we work on. And this also goes into my thoughts about, we talked about this before, about a dungeon crawl, like Hero Quest, for example. I called Brady this morning, just had this idea for this really simple dungeon crawl where you just collect a hand of cards to do things. Like, for example, I'm going to play this mace, and the mace specifically says play this to attack a monster and add your strength to it. So the card is just like a very simple rule about how to attack, and you play it and you do it. Like super simple. Like anybody could pick it up and play that, but it still feels like a game that like a RPG style board game. Well, I have lots of ideas for that, but I really want to have the opportunity to do more of those games.
I do think that, and it's not a blanket statement because it's not always true, but in a lot of ways, like when you're doing something creative, if you can step away from that whole like trying to be innovative or trying to be overly clever or whatever it is, you'll kind of get more toward what you really want to make, because I think it's easy to get distracted when you come into a creative role and you're trying to make a creative project. You'll get really caught up in like trying to be new, trying to be different, which is not always going to come out like, I mean, it works a lot of times, but not like, it doesn't really produce the fun all the time. So like I fall victim to that a lot when we're doing new design. I'll get really caught up in like, how can this AI be like so clever to compensate for what a human might do and all these things, but that doesn't always produce like fun stuff, like the fun experiences.
When a player is sitting down to play a game of things they're familiar with, like they're familiar with what an orc is, for example, they want the orc to do what they expect it to do. Like they want the orc to come up and attack me like they would assume. They want those like that. That's why people complain about things that don't, like, oh, this rule doesn't make sense because I thought it was this, because they just have this assumption about what this should do because they're familiar with it. And I think that's kind of important. It's like, as a game designers, you want to give people what they want, what they expect something to do in a fun way. Like they want that experience of going to a dungeon, fighting monsters. Stop putting things in the way to prevent them from doing that.
Yeah, that's also like just it's putting the focus more on the players. Like designing for player fantasy is something that I've always tried to do, but I don't always do because I get caught up in like designing for myself in a lot of ways, deciding for myself as the designer, not the player, because you always want to keep in mind what the players, because we design games that should be geared toward player fantasy, because we design thematic games about heroic people, heroic characters facing perilous odds or whatever. So that should be really leaning into the player fantasy of what they want to be, what they want to happen. You don't want to you want to have drama. So like that's an important element where there's the surprise and the unexpectedness of what's happening in the game. But you want to keep in mind, you want to have the payoffs too. So that's something that's easy to lose sight of when you're trying to be overly clever with mechanics and, just, I guess, trying to innovate. I don't like to innovate, but I think I just default want to sometimes when I'm designing a project, because it's like, well, what can we do that's new, and who cares about that? Just do what's fun.
Would you, out of curiosity, would you consider a game like Blood Bowl to be simple?
Like that's difficult because there's simple and complex. No, like Blood Bowl, not Blitz Bowl, like Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is not simple at all. No, I mean, you can reduce it down to like, oh, you're just rolling dice to resolve this thing, but there's so many exceptions, so many abilities with weird timing, and that goes into the whole complexity versus like simple versus complex, because like abilities have to be elegant and like not introduce new timing windows, and that game has way too many timing windows that can interrupt things and you have to check for.
It's funny because the rule book is huge. It's like a big fat thick rule book, and it is like there's so much to chew through in that game. But yeah, when you're playing it, it's like I just move my guys, block them. It's like, it seems like so simple, but I guess that's true with a lot of games you're familiar with. You played lots of times.
There's a lot of exceptions in that game too, because you have that blocking thing. Like
I wouldn't call that game simple, but like I'm just curious what your opinion of is it, someone who doesn't play it as often or whatever.
Yeah, you can reduce a lot of things to make that seem simple, but yeah, when you're coming at it new, definitely not. It's pretty overly complex, I would say. Yeah.
And that's not an example of when I say simple. I was just curious about classifications or whatever in somebody else's opinion what simple means. But yeah, in my mind, simple is even Talisman. It's simple, but the rule book is pretty beefy, and there's a lot of exceptions, and there's like a giant flow chart in the back of the book where it's like if you're landing on a space, which cards do you explore, which order encounter, like if you move to another area, do encounter that space. There's lots of ifs and stuff. It's not like super elegant, but it is simple. It's simple to explain to somebody when they sit down to play. Roll a die and move, and then we'll read the card and see what happens. So simple to approach versus simple overall. I don't know.
Here's another aspect that came up over the holidays that affects how we plan for things, and this is a constant distraction, because when you're trying to monetize your creative efforts, like we're making a company, and the company has to sell games to a lot of people to keep making projects. So you have to think in these terms about like, what do people want, and it kind of, it's like you get caught in this mindset of like, as a fan, what do I want, because you want to get in the mindset of people who spend a lot of money on games. I do, for sure, spend a lot of money on games. So how do I tap into that? And I look at games that are like really popular that also excite me. Game types like LCGs, like cooperative LCGs. That's a monumental, like, printing money industry, because like FFG's biggest games, Arkham Horror, the card game, Lord of the Rings, the LCG, the Arkham Horror, or not, I said that already, the Marvel Champions, it's a big game for them. And then like Earthborn Rangers we did with their Earthborn games. That was a huge game for them. It's modeled after that, cooperative storytelling card game. I love those. When I first got into the Lord of the Rings LCG, we were working at Fantasy Flight Games, and I was obsessed with this game because like it was something I never even thought of, because I had liked the idea of Magic the Gathering a lot. I played it a few times, with Justin Mitchell. We played occasionally. I wasn't ever super into it, but I loved the idea of building this deck and coming to the table and playing a game with somebody. But I never liked the whole like, oh, we're just magicians killing each other. Like that never appealed to me. I liked all the cards, I liked the artwork, but I wanted an adventure, And then when I talked to Nate French at Fantasy Flight Games, we're working there, and he was pitching this Lord of the Rings card game he was working on. I was like, oh my God, dude, I never knew that's exactly what I wanted, So I always go back to that because I think that game model appeals to a lot of people beyond just me. For it's clear because it's always ranking top of the charts on BGG. Those games are always up there, and they just keep printing expansions. So like I would be lying if I didn't say that's something I would always want to do with Twin Tales, is do it like a cooperative expandable card game of some sort.
If you want me on board with that, if you make a dungeon crawl board,
it would be a dungeon.
Game,
yeah, it would be a done. It would have miniatures. It would have a board element. It would not just be a card game. I would want it to be something. It could be.
I was gonna say it could just be a card game. Like it could be a dungeon crawl card game.
It could be, yeah. It could be. But I mean, I'm open to it. But I think that's something that would differentiate itself, because there are a lot of like hybrid games out there. But if there was a really good, like engaging card game that had some sort of tactical element that wasn't overly complex, it was more just like it was like lighter than Hero Quest. The complexity came through the card play. The actual like tactical element would not be something that was driving the game. It's more just like a visual. Like if you're playing a role playing game, the miniatures and stuff are there just for like theme and visibility. That's kind of how I envisioned it. It was like a card game that just has these like the tactile element just to showcase like what's going on, to give it a spatial element. But yeah, that's something I always think about because it's just one of my favorite types of games. Like I love it. I was looking through my Marvel Champions stuff, and this came up recently because I totally forgot that Marvel Champions teased they're adding Iron Fist and the Defenders to the game line, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to buy all the expansions I'm missing, get back into that game because I really want to be ready for when that hits.
The teal one, right? The teal.
It's not the what's his name? Ling something? I forget his name. Lin. Not the Marvel rivals. Danny Rand. They've already confirmed it's Danny Rand with his green jumpsuit, his tracksuit, and his little
tracksuit.
They call it a tracksuit. It's not. It's like a disco.
Is it just tights?
Yeah, but it's like a tight suit, like a one piece. They call it a tracksuit. I don't know. It's because he did at one point. I think like in the '90s, he had like an actual tracksuit. But anyway, yeah. So that's something I would maybe push for. I'm not like. I know the complexities of having we'd have to have a full-time artist on board because that's a lot of art for cards and everything. But
yeah, maybe Ellie can clear her schedule.
I think if this does really well, I would be like, man, if we do anything else in the Mouselite, it would be like an RPG card.
Hey, we have
game.
all those item pieces that we can reuse.
We have a lot of
healing potions.
Yeah. That's the beauty part, is like I want to this is our fantasy catch-all IP, so any games we do is just going to add to this massive pool of artwork we can have, and then eventually we'll have enough to maybe do a card game. So there's that. But I think that's kind of touching on our plans for 2026, and they all hinge on a successful launch of the Mouselite Adventures, obviously. So hope you can help out with that and spread.
We're going to be spending our January kind of just trying to get the word out more. Hopefully, getting some more videos to share, driving more traffic to the GameFound page. There's not a ton. Like we've already thrown so much money at this project. We don't have a huge budget for more ads and stuff like that. But yeah. Still going to explore more ways to get the word out more. We did have a couple of the detractors come out of the woodwork trying to warn people away from the GameFound page. This is definitely not helpful. I mean, that's expected, but it's nice that at least I can explain our side and it seems to resonate at least. But it doesn't change the fact that you come out here and you want us to succeed, but you're trying to disparage us or warn people away from us when we were associated with something that went wrong, and we've been open about it. We've answered questions. We're even
trying to rectify things on whatever we can do. We're trying as hard
we're
as we
spending
can,
our own money to buy back our games from said company and give them a new life. And it's nothing about warning people away from us is helpful. Like,
yeah, what's most I mean, I don't want to get in the headspace of trying to analyze people who comment online, because you can't ever get around that. Like, there's people are just, it's so easy just to comment anonymously and whatever you want to say, but it is confusing when somebody is like, well, I do want this to succeed, I'm skeptical. It's like, well, that's fine, but like when you push your skepticism to the point where you're like telling other people how to feel, like that's gonna not see success for what, I mean, if you want to see this succeed, you're working against it.
It's so weird because I'm just not very online outspoken or like outgoing or whatever, where I have seen companies before where I felt like people should not support this company, but I've never ever felt the need to like warn them. It's like they can do what they want with their money or whatever.
I'm almost to the point where like maybe I'm a cynic, like maybe I'm heartless in this way, but like I think that it's up to those people to do their own research. Like if I saw that, I'd be like, I hope they looked into that. And anybody who does, they'll find plenty of content here.
Another thing is too is like I never feel like I'm the authority of where I know everything. Like just because I have an opinion about something does not mean that it's a fact. Like so. People go up and they post things about like what our role was at Blacklist Office, like they know it for a fact. It's not, you don't have all the information, so why are you trying to spread that out when it's not even factually correct?
It does remind me back in the Blacklist days when people would post and it was like new information to me. It's like, wow, these people know more about Blacklist than I do, because like apparently they did. I mean, I've done research, but like not to the level of this. So
maybe it's a good sign that like the word is spreading more, where these people they haven't been looking for us, but they saw it, so maybe that's good. More people are seeing it. But yes, if you are at all interested in the things that we do, I would ask, please don't post things that aren't true to like scare people away or whatever, because we are not Blacklist Games.
Yeah, and we've already, especially when we've openly talked about it on here. Like, I mean, people can come here and see us talk about it directly, and we're sharing whatever we can, whatever we know. So yeah, happy to answer questions, especially if they're done constructively. We'd love to address those questions.
I mean, it's good because we've been at this for months now, and it hasn't really come up before. So like we've answered questions about it, but it hasn't been like people scaring people away or things like that. It hasn't come up before. This is the first time I've seen it, so that's good, I guess. But yeah, I would definitely ask that if you have questions, feel free to drop them in our Discord. We'll be happy to discuss it. We've done it before. We don't like to beat a dead horse, but we also don't want to run away from accusations that aren't true or whatever, and make sure people know what we're trying to do with this company. So
I know we had some listener questions, but before we dig in, let's do a little like stuff we've been doing into, because
I did that. You do yours.
You did a little bit, but I also want to say I had like kind of a rediscovery of A Fate of the Fellowship, the Pandemic game by Matt Leacock, because I bought that back at Gen Con, and I was super stoked about it because I love Pandemic and I love Lord of the Rings. And I remember playing a couple times. We played at your house, and I don't remember disliking it, but I remember like kind of not being excited about it or something. I don't know. I just remember
it was a learning game.
Yeah, that could have been it. But I broke it out kind of just just because I was in a Lord of the Rings mood, I guess, and I played it solo, and I was like, man, this game is incredible. I love it. I was to the point where I was looking where I could upgrade the little wooden, meeple guys, the army guys with some actual sculpts, but it was like $90 for a set I saw on Etsy, so I didn't buy those. But if anybody has any 3D printed solutions, let me know, because I'd love to upgrade my games. I played with Sarah also after that. We played a 2-player game and it was awesome. She loved it. So great game. Yeah. Totally glad I finally broke that out and gave it the attention it deserved, because it's one of my recent favorites for sure.
We also played at our game night. We played Mouse Light Adventures with our game group, but we also brought out the trick-taking game.
The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
Yeah, Brian Bornmuller, right?
Yeah, I forget the other designers on it. It's other designers as well, but yeah, Brian Bornmuller.
We worked with Brian back at FFG way back when, he's 2010, 2011.
Yeah, he's got his own studio called, I think it's Office Dog Games, I believe it is. They might have been merged with that whole...
I thought he was working at Asmodee again, like...
Yeah, but it's an Asmodee studio.
Oh.
Like, yeah, it might
I can't keep up with
but,
everything
yeah.
Asmodee owns anymore.
I remember when he first started there, it was like he had his own like label. It was Office Dog Games, I believe. But
fun game. It's a fun little trick-taking game.
Yeah, and they're doing a sequel. The Two Towers one is coming out, I think, pretty soon. Either it's out now or it might be coming out soon. I forget. But I'll be definitely buying all of those because it's addicting. It's fun.
Good job, Brian. It's a fun game.
Yeah, because I know Brian listens. You're a subscriber, right, Brian?
Yeah.
And then there's another one I played recently. Besides, I broke out Marvel Champions again today, actually, because I was seeing what I was missing. Because I was like, what expansions can I maybe get before? I noticed I had Iceman. I got Iceman and Nightcrawler. Never played them. I'm going to try those out. There was another game we played recently, which was, at least I played. I don't know if I talked about it last podcast, but I got the Unmatched Ninja Turtles box, which is like there's just the Unmatched box with the normal content, the 4 turtles, and then Shredder and Krang. But they also have that new Adventures mode, which is like the co-op boss battle mode, which is pretty cool. I've only played the Krang one. I only played it solo, and from my experience with the last box, solo is not the ideal way to play it, but it is still pretty cool. It's still pretty neat. I want to try it out with some more players whenever I can, but production's great. So on to, I think, listener questions, right?
Podcast questions.
Podcast questions. People who listen to the podcast questions.
First up, we have Blackheart Paladin has a few questions. Going off the Lorenguard stuff this time, I have a couple questions. Is Astasia from Eve of Corruption the same as an Hour of Need?
No, the Astasia in the Lorenguard is more of a concept. It's like a state of the world, essentially, because it's like the world exists on a balance, and there's like these apocalyptic prophecies, and they all revolve around the world falling under Astasia, which is like lack of balance. That's what Astasia means. It's like a medical term. So not the same thing, but I got the name obviously I thought it was cool to use that name again because Days of Astasia sounded cool to me, so I brought it into Hour of Need just because I like the name.
Also, I may be misremembering, but wasn't Lorenguard mentioned in Rhythms of Ruin?
Oh, yeah.
If so, would you ever consider making them show up as like the monster hunters from a different area of the country?
So the band Lorenguard is not mentioned. Like the band doesn't exist as the band. The fantasy characters, the Lorenguard, they are connected in a way, not to spoil too much, because Adrathian is an entity mentioned as the ruler of this different dimension. So some backstory that might not be relevant to Relic Myers, but the Adrathian in the Lorenguard stories is a dragon, and dragons are like these celestial beings in flesh form. They're dragons. So when Adrathian is banished, he's banished to this other dimension, and that's the dimension he now rules because he was the most powerful being there when he got banished there. And then he's trying to worm his way into other dimensions, and that's where he finds Relic's universe. So,
on the same note, a possible Lorenguard inspired game could be sweet as well.
Yeah, that kind of depends on if we ever do, because like I have part of book 2 written for the Lorenguard series. It was originally a trilogy, but it's so dependent on like a band, like that I don't know if it's gonna ever like finish. But
we have one of the band members that just doesn't want anything to do with us.
Yeah.
Basically.
Also like it's just I kind of talked about this before, but like
not us personally, just like the whole he just doesn't want to talk to the entire band. Not me, Brady,
the Lorenguard setting, like fantasy wise, it was kind of like. It's one of those things that's like not ideal fantasy for me. It was like much more meant to be like grim, dark sort of, and it's like this is my fantasy. So it's like it's hard for me to get into another fantasy world because if I ever do fantasy, it's always going to be in the Malice Light, I'm sure. So.
I would say more likely Lorenguard might show up in some form in this setting somehow, but in some form. He said he's a huge fan of the band and agrees with me that it's an amazing album. Literally have had it on repeat for weeks at a time. You guys are using Greenstone for the podcast, which is amazing. Yes, Greenstone is one of the songs where I would always recommend to people who might not be into like European themed metal to listen to because it's very just rock metal, and it's pretty easy to listen to for no matter what kind of music you're into.
The album it's very curious because it's got a good reputation amongst like just the power metal community. Like it's talked about a lot by people who just love power metal, which is cool. I like that. But it's also like it just transcends genres so much because even people that might not listen to power metal, like my immediate family they don't love all power metal, but they all like Lorenguard, and not like in a charitable way where it's like, oh, it's your band. They just like the music. So it's very accessible music. So it's rare. It's rare for metal to do that.
He had one other question about the game. How long do you realistically think production fulfillment would take after the campaign finishes? I've heard you guys say by the end of the next year, and this year, and that seems like a quick turnaround based off of other funding campaigns. But I know you guys are planning to have the game almost completed by the time you launch, so not sure if that's why you have a faster timeline in mind. So yes, I will say that all of the games that we have been involved with from a crowdfunding perspective have never been completed games. They've always been rough concepts of design where we design just a sliver of the content to see if it funds before we dive into the rest of it. That's just how publishers typically work, where they see if a game idea is going to actually be feasible, and then they finish development for it.
Yeah, that's mainly why we've always worded certain games where it's like, oh, we felt rushed on this game. It's because when we worked at Blacklist, they would just rush things they would want to like, hey, is this rulebook ready to show? Or, it's always like these rush things to get them out the door. And this was not that. This was a game we wanted to have pretty much like done, where we could actually probably almost just print this thing once it funds. So.
Well, that the other consideration is that a lot of times you have to have some kind of time built in to accommodate the pledge manager and people that want to like late pledge. So there might be some kind of like month delay between or something where the campaign ends, it's successful, and then we launch the pledge manager. We have to leave it open till get most of the people to actually complete it, and then maybe get some late pledgers and then go to print. But usually from back when I started working in games back in 2010, there was always like a 3-month turnaround between going to print and then getting the game, because printing production can be done in a week or two, like sometimes depending on the game. Like it can be pretty quick, but then there's palleting it up, and then the freight can take weeks and months. Like that's where the majority of the wait time is freighting the product.
Games can be done sitting on a pallet waiting for a spot on a boat, so like
and then
you just can't tell.
And then being on the boat, going to different ports, unloading all that stuff. So that's the biggest weight, and then the rest of that's fulfillment, just how the fulfillment company operates, where they have they ship things to different hubs, package them up and send them to backers. So that's the stuff that's kind of out of our control, but we're kind of gonna go off the best guidance from our fulfillment partner for that stuff. But yeah, the game itself is, when the campaign's over, the game is going to be ready to go, and that's what our goal has been the entire time. So.
Our like kind of firm deadline is we can't say this like with certainty, but we would like to be able to plan to have this for Gen Con, because if we happen to get booth space, we want to have something to sell, like besides just books. So that's our goal, is to have this fulfilled and be able to sell it at Gen Con.
So Paul Grogan asks an interesting question that we might not be able to answer fully, but
I can answer it. I think I know.
Well, I have a question. You have the rights to Heroes of Terranoth, but assuming you cannot use the Terranoth IP or any of the artwork, you'd have to literally change the name of everything. And since trademarks only apply to artwork, names, etc., you cannot trademark a game design or its mechanisms. Which exactly does it mean that you have the rights back? What can and cannot you do with this? This will work.
So this comes up a lot, and I think the best way to explain this, it's like it's kind of more of formality, because like you said in your follow-up post, is you could just call it whatever you want and release a copycat game. But if you did that, you would face quite a bit of backlash. This is a way that's like we could do it without facing that backlash, because we got we got the okay, go ahead from the original publisher, and like this is it's a formality.
Because it's just like, so the publisher won't come out and say, hey, you're copying our game. Like even if they didn't do anything legally, they could just smear you publicly and make you say, hey, don't buy this game. But then again, it is questionable, because there's a lot of intricacies about the legal stuff that I'm an expert on. I'm not even knowledgeable on some of it, but there are things that can be trademarked. For example,
if you release a game that's literally a carbon copy of another game with just different graphics and art, there's still precedence to have some sort of legal dispute over that, even like, because you could just argue, oh, it's a different game, but like if the original publisher says this game is imitating this by X, Y, and Z, there's still some legal merit to be had there, even though you can't copyright the game mechanics themselves. It's more of the product, the intellectual property going on there.
It's a published product. It's published.
So
work.
if it's verbatim, that's where the problem stands. If you change enough things, like you're still gonna probably get some backlash because you just copy and pasted something. So
we could if we wanted, probably just release Heroes of Terranoth with different art, and some of the things change the names or whatever, but the game, all the effects being the same. We could do that probably if we wanted to, but I don't think we want to.
Yeah, like professionally, it's a terrible move for various reasons. So this, like when people say, "Oh, we got the design back," that's just like it's a kind of just a tip of the hat saying, "Yeah, that's it. We give this our blessing essentially." So that's mostly what it is. There's other things involved there, but yeah, mostly it reverted back to us. So we have a done game that like we can just change the content or change the art, the graphics, and release it if we wanted to without any problems.
I will say there is some gray area too. Like I said, some things can be trademarked or copyrighted. Like for example, I believe WizKids has some kind of a rights on the tracking of health on a base on a figure. Because there was, when I was working at FFG, they were working on Star Wars X-Wing, and there was some kind of like dispute between them about the dials and things like that. And that's actually why all of a sudden you saw WizKids doing like a Star Wars version of X-Wing. Oh, that's weird. It's because of some kind of a legal, like, okay, well, if you want to do this, let me do this type thing. I don't know the details on it. It was talked about while I was there. It happened after I left, all that stuff, but probably couldn't talk about the details anyway. But yeah, there are some things that can be trademarked, copyright, whatever. I think it's a complicated thing, but most people just want to avoid it altogether. That's why things like these agreements happen, because it eliminates any possibility for anyone to have some sort of legal merit over something. So I haven't looked into this, but I did hear, I was watching some YouTube video about some video game news, and someone was talking about Pal World with Nintendo, Pokemon, and I guess Pokemon, like Nintendo trademarked the concept of summoning creatures to fight in battle, and it's like that has been used in so many RPGs
because they don't enact on it. They just have it there for situations like this where they can use it as their weapon. But yeah, it's a very, very broad thing.
And that's actually there was some more discussion about that in the question tab, but that was the last actual question. So
cool. And there's been I wish we could have more I don't know. I wish I could force people to listen to this podcast, because we have questions that pop up on the GameFound page, which I've put in the FAQs, but we still get asked. There's a lot of localization questions, and obviously this probably isn't going to answer those questions here, but I will just say, in case anybody's listening, this is just the English version of the game. The GameFound is only doing English for now, because once we fund, we are able to move into localization with that product line. But yeah, this is just for the English version, because we cannot introduce all those different factors involved with our first project, maybe in the future, but it just adds too many complications, and we want to make sure this is as streamlined as possible. For obvious reasons, just get everything out there and get it fulfilled.
And we are partnering with Next Tabletop to localize. So we do have that in place and ready to go. Once the project is successful, we can move on to that.
That's the second time you said
successful.
It's like a different word.
Can I get a large sausage pizza?
Sausage.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it, right? That's the episode.
That's an episode. That's the first episode of 2026. And
very simple.
There's going to be 2 more this year. You'll have 2 more episodes.
2 more episodes. One in February, and then one in
like December,
April.
It's the last of the year. No, we'll be back maybe in a week, maybe 2 weeks. We haven't set a steady cadence yet on the podcast, but it's bi-weekly for now. We'll see how that goes. We'll probably have more updates as this project comes closer, and we can talk about like constant updates of where the status is on everything. So
yeah,
and subscribe, share our stuff. Go buy The Malice of Light wherever you buy books. You can order it from anywhere, because it's on Ingram Spark, it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble orders through those places. So just get it somewhere.
If you see anybody online talking about us and Blacklist Games, please point them to the Discord or our YouTube page, so we can
answer questions,
clarify anything, and try to get that stuff dispelled, and you move on to more exciting things about our first project. So hopefully everything goes
eyes
smoothly.
to the future.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time.